told me the story. He's like, I want to work with people who are going to burn the ships. And I go, Scooter, what does that mean? What does burn the ships? And he goes, like, and he told me like his Justin story about how he found him with Usher in Atlanta and the whole thing. And he's like so passionate, like the first time he's told it. But he's like, my dad told me the story. Like there was a battle going on, and these guys, the only way for them to win the battle was they had to sail up to the coast, burn all their ships so that they couldn't, bomb them, hurt them. Burn the ships, and you got to go win.
You got to go.
You have to go win. And so he said to me, he goes, burn the ships.
Purpose in the youth. Purpose in the youth podcast. Welcome back to the Purpose in the Youth podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Purpose in the Youth podcast with your favorite bearded man, the one, the only Bobbbaaaay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Purpose in the Youth podcast with your favorite bearded man, the one, the only Bobbbaaaay. Today, Groupisode 3, three legends in the house. We got my man, Brandin Cohen, sitting across from me, founder of Liquid I.V, episode 99 of the podcast, my man. We got Blake Pinsker over here, episode 87, director of marketing for Movement.
Mazel tov.
And the one, the only Steven Borrelli. Let's go! Founder of Cuts. Boys, welcome back to the podcast. How we doing tonight? How we doing?
We're doing good. I'm happy to be here. Happy to bring it back.
Oh, this is going to be epic. I'm telling you right now, this is going to be a high energy podcast that is going to be fulfilled with lots, or filled, I should say, with lots of gems.
I'm actually nervous for the listeners because there's going to be so much fire dropping.
Oh, there's going to be a lot.
There's a rumor going around.
Is there? Blake, how's I wanted to start this podcast off with
I want to know what the rumor is. Wait, what's the rumor?
Yeah, what is it? You gotta give me the setup.
Quick question for Blake. How are the Yankees doing?
Let's not talk about it. I didn't come here to talk about baseball.
Boston Red Sox going to be World Series. Let's clap it up for
Dodgers.
the
Let's go. Dodgers. Lakers.
There's a rumor going around that this podcast is over.
Honestly, I want to before we really get into today's podcast, I need to acknowledge two things that have changed since two of you have been on the podcast. First off, Blake, Movement acquired for $100 million.
Let's go.
So I want to give you a quick shout out to Blake and everyone at Movement. I also want to give a quick shout out to my man Brandin Cohen across the street from me, across the desk. We got Series B funding. We got Scooter Braun on the team now. We got Kygo, and we got Adam Eaton. I believe that's the third person.
Legendary.
Congrats to you.
Thank you, man.
Huge accomplishments for both of you guys. So I want to give a quick
Let's go.
shout out to you guys since we did the podcast.
You deserve all the glory.
You deserve all the glory. Before we get into today's podcast, round table, 60 seconds each. Where are you from? One fact about your childhood, where you went to college and your major, and how you would describe who you are today. Just for people to get refreshed on who you guys are if they haven't listened to the podcast.
Okay, you want to get going here? So, Brandin Cohen, you're going to have to give me the questions. Brandin Cohen.
Yep.
Grew up in South Bay, Manhattan Beach, California.
Yep.
One fun childhood fact. Loved playing sports. I ended up getting a college scholarship to play golf in college.
Young Tiger Woods in the building.
That was me. And what was the last one?
You do college, you say that?
College
major?
Loyola Marymount.
Yeah, Loyola.
Business, sports marketing, entrepreneurship.
Yep. And then how would you describe who you are today?
Man, just relentless Mamba mentality, go-getter. Yeah.
Kobe would be happy about that one.
Yeah, he would.
Blake Pinsker, what about you?
Blake Pinsker from Valencia, California.
Shout out to Cali.
The second question, I believe, was childhood.
Childhood, one fun fact.
I slanged candy in elementary school and nearly got expelled.
I like that one.
I like that one
Classic
a lot.
Blakey P.
I like that one a lot.
The
College and major.
Okay. San Diego State business marketing.
Let's go. And how would you describe who you are today?
Fucking hungry.
Hungry.
Oh,
Let's
man,
get it.
that's gonna
Let's
be
get
a
it.
theme. That's gonna be
Let's get it.
Hungry.
It's gonna be a theme.
Steven
No, for real, I
Borrelli.
haven't ate all day, man.
Drink some liquid.
Steven Borrelli from Wenatchee, Washington. Shout out to Snatch.
Let's get it.
What was the next one?
That childhood. Fun fact about your childhood.
fun fact about my childhood, I'm a twin. Very few people know.
Very
did
few.
not know
Very.
that.
You didn't know
Yeah.
that?
No.
Oh my God, for real?
Yeah.
Wow.
You learned
Love you,
something
Becca,
already.
if you're watching. I love you.
And then
fun fact.
college and major.
Business marketing. Me and Blake went to school together.
Yes, sir. And what is one? How would you describe who you are today?
Just ready at a moment's notice. I feel like I love to work. I'm passionate. I keep the energy levels hot.
Definitely hot. Energy levels with you guys is definitely through the roof at all times.
Yeah, I like to just go after it.
I love it.
I'm ready to get after it today.
I love it. So to set up this podcast, because what we're walking into for this podcast is gonna be a lot of business, a lot of entrepreneurship, kind of painting the picture of what you guys have been doing and the lessons you've learned within your own fields. Talk to me about going back to childhood, right? What was that first job or the first hustle you ever had that made you any ounce of money? What was the first time you ever made money?
You kick it, SB.
So I started off, my dad is in the fruit business, and at 15, he was like, you're getting a job, right when you could start working. And I went and packed cherries out of the line. But I remember you got paid cash every single day.
Money.
So I would get at the time, it was like $80 a day. You get there at 4, you would leave it like 2 or 3.
Yep.
And, I got a couple of my friends. And at that moment, at the end of the summer, I had like $4,000 or $5,000, which was a lot of money at that time. And I was like, hey, I like this. I like being able to do stuff. And so that was kind of one of the first things I did.
Brandon?
Two-part. One is I was so focused on my golf as what I wanted to do, and so I would get dropped off at the course at I was 12 years old. I'd get dropped off at 8 a.m. and I would say just pick me up at the end of the day, 8, 9, 10 p.m. at night. I would stay there with the lights on, and I was so solely focused on getting a college golf scholarship. I want to get my college paid for golf, and people are the odds of that really low, really low, really low. After grinding, I got my college scholarship. So that was one. First time from a money perspective, real cash, was I went to go work for the Arizona Diamondbacks, the pro baseball team, when I graduated from school.
Yep.
They told me that my base would be $23,000, $23K a year. If I did really good, I would make $5K in commission. The economy turned a little bit in 2011. The Diamondbacks got a little bit better, but I was just I'm going to sling so many tickets, and I ended up probably making over 6 figures in commission that year.
Buckets.
That was the first time I was I'm just
That's first year out of college too. You're making 6 figures
in Arizona, and I was like, I don't
Cheap
know what
living,
to do.
cheap
Wait, I
living.
budgeted for $28K.
Yeah.
And then I was making 6. I was like, let's go tables, let's go.
I know who's buying the
It's
table.
time.
This guy right
It's
here.
time. So that was my first taste of
making money.
And it was no skill. It was just hunger and I love people, right? Connecting with people, and that's all it was. I was just I wasn't selling tickets. I was just relationships. It was me. They bought because they trusted me, and so that was my first taste, the money side of it. Yeah.
Respect.
Blake Pinsker.
I think I just mentioned.
Yeah, I know. You had mentioned it in the beginning.
Yeah, when I was in 6th grade, I started a candy business in elementary school. I'd go to Ralph's and pick up a big bag of bulk candy. And it was around the time where they banned candy in Southern California schools, so they weren't selling
That was a thing.
Yeah, they weren't selling them at
they didn't do that in Massachusetts,
they used to have what was
boys.
called the red cart, so it was the
I was swinging it.
the snack cart. So they stopped.
I didn't know that.
Well, at least in my school district, they stopped selling bad foods. And eventually, I think they've even weeded out more foods in certain
Schools are now going vegan.
Yeah. So I basically
Seriously.
started selling candy to kids, and I would even give out stamps, a loyalty program, and kids loved it because they knew me, they went to school with me, and I loved it. It was the first time I had a taste of what I felt was a business. I even had a kid in my class who was one of the smartest kids in the class. Kid's name was Zach Miller. Shout out Zach Miller.
Epic
And
last name.
he was my accountant, so he would count the money, and I remember the feeling when you're a kid, you play doctor or house or these different games where you make believe. It felt like I was a businessman, and that was always is my ambition as a kid. And I'll never forget, I got called into the principal's office one day, and one of the yard duty ladies snitched on me, and I was bringing in some good money for a kid, maybe $50 a week.
That's not
That's
bad.
good.
That's
That's good money as a little
bad.
kid.
Tax free.
Oh,
Tax
yeah.
free.
And the principal basically said, if you this is a against the rules to be selling stuff on campus. He's like, if you don't stop, we're going to have to suspend you.
Yeah.
And at the time, I just remember like getting so down on myself, like just being ashamed of,
breaking the
being in
breaking
trouble.
the rules.
Like,
Yeah.
But at the same time, like angry because I felt like I was doing something fun. And then, you go back to class and they make you read this ridiculous, book that is absolutely irrelevant to your life. And, I realized later in my life, like how that was such a bad lesson at an early age. Like here I was like trying to do something entrepreneurial and just got completely shot down and threatened. Like if you do this again, like you're going to...
Because they're trying to live by the code, right? Like they don't want you to be selling in school. They don't want you guys to be doing that. But at the same time, that's a good lesson for you to learn of like buying something and then flipping it and making money off that. Because that's
Right.
entrepreneurship at its core, right? Like buying something for cheaper and then reselling it. But then you have somebody telling you can't do this, and you think at a young age, oh, I'm not supposed to do this. So then
subconsciously, you don't even think about it, but like who knows what that... And I'm not going to blame that as an excuse, but looking back, I really do think that like probably swayed me away from like ideas later in my school days.
Those early hustles, I feel like, say a lot about a person. When you ask them about like what was like the first thing they had to put their effort towards, or how did they make their first dollar? Because I think a lot of those lessons you learn early on end up translating into lessons that you carry with you today. Like my first job is still stuff that I remember busting my ass, working hard. It's still translated into kind of the person who I am today. So I'm always kind of curious to hear what were the first jobs people had, or the first kind of goals that they had to put their eyes on the prize and work after. Because once you can accomplish those little steps, you end up translating that into bigger things.
I think motivation isn't something that you can just wake up one day and have. It's very much like it builds upon. It's like same thing in being happy. You can't just wake up being happy. And I think for me, like having those little motivations in life, like I started working at Zoomies and just becoming a top seller there. And then I worked at Nordstrom and looking at my daily stats of like what that progress felt like. It teaching, like obtaining something, you learn something from each one. And so like if anyone's listening, I think like if you're trying to find motivation, just start simple of like what you want to do, because then it'll start to build, and then the ideas will get bigger and you'll start obtaining more, and then it'll start clicking.
I'm huge on momentum. I think momentum is like probably underrated when it comes to business or anything in life, right? Like get a small win. Get a small win. You get a win. Now build on that win. And the next one, like you can't hit a grand slam like without anyone on base. You got to get a couple wins, right? You got to get some people on base. And so momentum for me is big. Like I always, when I'm having a hard time, I'm like, okay, stop thinking so big. Like when things get tough, go small. Let's get one small win. Then I get a couple, and then when things are rolling, that's when I go into like, I think big, and that's when I think strategy. But like getting that momentum going is money.
Because once you get it moving, it's just like it keeps going.
Snowballs,
keeps
right?
going.
More momentum begets more positivity, more, the whole thing.
Why did you guys choose business in college? Why choose, of all the majors that you could possibly choose, where you went to school? I mean, you two went to San Diego, you went to Loyola. And I know a lot of these answers to the questions, but I'm just trying to paint the picture for people that might not have heard the previous podcast, which they can tune into later. Why business?
For me, I really thought I was going to be a pro golfer. So that for 3 years, I was like, school, whatever. Like this is my thing, right? That was what I was focused on. Shoulder injury my senior year. Business I knew I liked business, but it wasn't like that big of a deal to me, to be honest with you. And my senior year, I was like, okay, I had this injury. I was like, I got to figure out what I'm going to do, right? So I go to the dean of the entrepreneurship school. I go to the dean of the business school. I have none of the prereqs to get in the classes that I need. And I walk into his office. People are emailing him. I walk into his office. I wait there. He won't talk to me the first day. Second day, go talk to him.
Natural.
He goes, listen. He goes, listen, like you came to my office. I'll let you in the program. You don't have any of the prereqs you need, but like don't let me down. Long story short, we did during the 2010 Haiti earthquake. We got over 20,000 meals donated to Haiti. I led a team of 10. I had no idea. I didn't even know what entrepreneurship meant. Swear to God, I really didn't know what it meant. Kind of galvanized this team. I realized I love leading. More importantly, like I just like love helping people. Like that's what I'm so passionate about. So to get all these meals donated to Haiti, like 20,000 meals donated. Long story short, I won Entrepreneur of the Year my senior year.
Let's go.
When I didn't even know that business was what I wanted to do, and that was like my first like taste of it.
Yeah. You boys?
For me, growing up, I always wanted to be in business. I knew since a young age that was what I wanted to do. I didn't grow up in a entrepreneurial environment, and so that was never even like a thought. Like I always thought like you needed to come for money to even like start your own business. Until now, like obviously, I obviously see like such a different side since being with Movement. But at the same time, when I grew up, I knew that, you know, I thought that climbing the corporate ladder was like my way to success. And, you know, I tried sciences, tried different courses in school, and business was always something that I was drawn to. And then getting to San Diego State, there was really no, like, I really didn't, like, there was a period I wanted to be like a public speaker, but I was like, in order to be an inspirational speaker, a public speaker, you have to have something to back it. And so business,
you have to have a story
Gotta
to
get a
tell.
win.
Exactly.
Gotta get a win.
You don't want to be up there just blabbing and like you really don't have like something to talk about, I guess. So that was my motivation to go into business.
I think for me, it was my dad owns a small Apple business, and I just saw the way he lived his life. He could coach me in sports. He was on his own time, and he would always say to me, I couldn't work for someone. He just said I couldn't fathom working for someone. And then one day he was talking to a guy that started in the business. I'll never forget it. He was at lunch, and the guy goes, hey, 17, 20 years ago, whatever it was at the time, I wish I would have started it with where you're at now, because, you know, after all these years, like, I wish I could go on vacation when I wanted to. And at that moment, I was like, you know, that's got to be my story eventually. And then it kind of, I think it led to other things. I was always curious, like when I would see people doing stuff, I was like, oh, I wonder how that guy did it.
Yeah.
You know, and that would build. So that was like mine.
To me, that's what I feel like the real success is. And I know everyone has a different definition, but to be in complete control of my time, I'd rather work 100 hours a week than 40 hours a week for somebody else, and know that I can do what I want when I want. I could call tomorrow off, and there's nobody to tell me that I can't and can't do that.
I think
What do we always say? We just want the ball in our hands.
That's right.
We just want the ball
Clock's
in our hands.
coming down. I'm
That's
shooting
all
that
I
shot,
want.
baby.
You might
That's all I want.
miss,
Shoot that shot.
but it's on you.
Yeah.
At least you're in
Yeah.
control, you know?
Yeah.
You're in
I'll
control.
never forget when I was a kid, I'd go to sports games with my dad, and we'd usually have, you know, pretty fair seats. Just sometimes in the nosebleeds, we'd find a way to sneak down. And whether we had binoculars or you could see like the front row, he'd always like say like, look at the front row. Look at the people that are down there.
Yeah.
Usually like old ass dudes.
Yeah.
And really, really good looking women. And he's like, you know what they do? And he'd be like, what? He's like, they're either in movies or they own their own business.
Yeah.
And like, I just would always remember like me and my dad, who was like hustled his ass off his whole life.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like even getting tickets to a game was like
A big
it
deal.
was a big deal.
Yeah.
And so like I always had that in my head, and like had ambition to like, you know, one day like give my family like the life that like I know he always dreamed of and worked so hard for, but always kind of was like nickel and diamond, you know what I mean?
I think what's so cool to me is like for other people listening is like you have 4 totally different ways of how we got there. Like, but like we all had this vision of where we wanted to get, and despite the different path, like we knew we were going to get there. You know what I mean? Like it's not like there's one cookie cutter way.
Yeah.
And that's it's good for people to hear. Like,
Yeah.
It's important that every single person has their own journey, and so sometimes I find myself stressing out, thinking like, well, why am I doing this? Like, I've never seen anybody else do it this way before, and I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I want to be the first person on the cover of GQ, on the cover of Entrepreneur magazine.
Let's go.
Started
go,
from
baby.
the Uber, now we're here.
Okay,
You
let's
feel me?
go.
So it's like you have to. There was a quote I heard recently. It was like, "You're where you're supposed to be at the time you're supposed to be," or something like that. It's just like, don't overthink the present
I like that.
moment,
I
and
like
just
that.
think about the big picture of what you're working towards. Because as long as you're able to make those baby steps every single day, you're eventually going to get to where you want to be. And we're not all supposed to have the similar paths. I didn't go to school for that golf scholarship. You know what I mean? Like we all have our own separate journeys, but I think it's very easy to compare ourselves and think, wow, that's how Blake did it, or that's how Steven did it. Maybe I need to be replicating the steps that they took. In reality, that's not going to get you to where you want to be.
SB, what's the thing I told you in the car ride home that has just been money?
So me and Brandon, just so everyone understands, we were at a marketing
Networking
event.
CEO kind of dinner.
Yeah, like
big baller dinner right
all
there.
these
Kind of.
yeah. There's like all these people that own businesses that were there, and everyone was talking about, oh, my next venture is this, my next venture is this. And as an entrepreneur, like once you have like small wins, you're like, man, I could do this, this, and this because I have a formula for it. And then I was talking to B, and he was like, you have your win. Who cares what anyone? All that other stuff is just noise.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said in the moment, that's exactly what I needed to hear. And he was like, you got to put your blinders on.
Yeah.
We're in the car driving home, and he's like, dude, what they want to do, I can do that better.
Yeah.
And I was like, I hear you. I was like, SB, you have it right here. It's right in front of you. Put your fucking blinders on and go
Get to work.
And so now he sends me like, please, like that was the most epic car ride home.
'Cause
I blocked it. Of course you can.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
You're a competitor. You're a winner. Of course you go do that. But put the blinders on. You got it right in front of you right now.
The amount of times I've said to Jake, let's do shoes, let's do jackets, let's do it. And like, even sunglasses was like a big
deal, right?
change.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of debate, like, do we jump into a new category or we just be the best at watches? And I don't know if there was a right or wrong answer. It's been great for the brand. Like, I think it help us to become more of a lifestyle brand. But at the same time, I really do think there is something to going all in on and putting all your eggs in that basket until that's to a point where like you've maximized growth and you do need to open up other categories, like some of the stuff you guys are working on.
Right timing.
Right.
I was with Scooter last week, right? And like
Scooter Braun, ladies and gentlemen. Scooter Braun.
Yeah, Scooter first name basis.
Google it if you don't know who that is, but
Yeah.
first name basis for Brandon.
So yeah, I'm supposed to meet with him on a Thursday, and he calls me up 8 a.m. Monday morning. I don't even have his number saved because we've been on email most of the time. 3 missed calls at 8 a.m. on a Monday, and Mondays for me right now are just like brutal. Our team's growing. It's like not my day to like just like freewheel.
Yeah.
And I get a text. He goes, "Hey, it's Scooter. We need to meet today because I have like board meetings. I'm traveling out of town. You're the one meeting that I want to get with." So I was like, all right, I'll figure it out. I'll make it work. So we come in. We have like 15 minutes on the calendar, and I'm like ready to go. We end up hanging for about probably 2 hours almost. And
Clear the schedule.
He told me the story. He's like, I want to work with people who are going to burn the ships. And I go, Scooter, what does that mean? What does burn the ships? And he goes, like, and he told me like his Justin story about how he found him with Usher in Atlanta and the whole thing. And he's like so passionate, like the first time he's told it. But he's like, my dad told me the story. Like there was a battle going on, and these guys, the only way for them to win the battle was they had to sail up to the coast, burn all their ships so that they couldn't, bomb them, hurt them. Burn the ships, and you got to go win.
You got to go.
You have to go win. And so he said to me, he goes, burn the ships. So I sent him like this long message afterward. I was like, dude, I'm so fired up. Let's go. He's like, he just said, burn the ships. And I was like, let's burn the ships.
Burn the ships.
He's so jacked, he can't even talk.
I'll say this.
He can't even talk. He can't even. That's me. That's Borrelli to a T. He's so jacked, he can't talk.
I get hyped about this because I remember like sitting in my when I had the first idea of cuts. I remember sitting in San Diego, just devastated about like my current situation. And then when I moved home, me and Blake were talking about this, and I was the kid that was home, starting a t-shirt company, and at that moment I was like, you know what? Hell or high water. Kobe always says this is like you're gonna make it happen, and like I was gonna go all in, and I was gonna burn the ships, and that's what I'm doing. And it's the only way, because once you quote unquote burn the ships, it changes everything. Every little step changes from there on out because you only have one route. It makes everything else clear. There's one route, and it's going all. Right.
Your back is against the wall.
And the thing is, I think my goal is to get people to understand that this opportunity, the lifestyle you want to live, the job you want to have, the company that you want to work for, it's all achievable. Mm-hmm. But the sacrifices you have to make in order to get that, most people aren't willing to make. And Brandon, I've only known you for a few years. I'm sure you had to make them. I know for a fact when Steven moved home for 2 years, put his head down and started working on cuts, nobody knew where the fuck he went.
Yeah.
He was off the map.
Yeah.
And nobody really even knows that was going down at the time. A lot of people, like, I disappeared for 6 months when I first started working with Movement. And like it was a side hustle because like in my off hours, it was all dedicated to Movement. And like there was no time for partying. There was no time for like going on trips. And I think in a lot of ways, like people don't realize that the sacrifices you have to make are what differentiates you from everyone else who has an idea.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because we see the end result. And that's why I love doing this podcast because we get to hear these stories of like people see where you're at, people see where you're at, but they don't hear where you actually came from. And it's easy for me to see like, wow, Blake's traveling around, or Steven's here, or Brandon's at the Lakers game, but it's like you guys have been putting in this years of work that you damn well deserve to be there because you've sacrificed a lot to get to these points. On top of that, what do you think? I want you to think back to kind of the early stages, like early stages of cuts, early stages of movement, early stages of Liquid IV. What do you think was the biggest sacrifice you had to make? And when nobody's paying attention, when nobody's caring about movement, nobody cares to wear cuts, nobody wants to drink Liquid IV, what was the biggest sacrifice that you had to make?
I can go. I know mine. This one I know off the top of my head. So like, I was gonna go to business school, only because I wasn't really sure what I was gonna do next, and it was like, okay, I'll go to business school. And I was like with, I was surrounding myself with people who were like, oh, that's the right next step. And so, I'm starting an electrolyte drink. Like there's Gatorade out there, right? And so, and I told this on our episode, right? And I was like, hey, I think we got some momentum here. Like I think I'm gonna go after this and defer my business school thing. And this kid laughed in my face. Like he literally laughed at me. And like I've said it before, like I heard him in my head every morning. It like motivated me. Like it's nothing against him. It just so we got into Whole Foods. We got into one Whole Foods. I went to a Supplier 101 class. Like everyone's like, how do you get into Whole Foods? And I'm like, I Googled how to get into Whole Foods. I went to a Supplier 101 class in Oxnard. There were 52 brands there. I chised, which we'll talk about. I was talking to the buyers. There were 2 brands that got into this one Whole Foods in Venice every weekend, right? This is like when I'm like 24, like everyone's out partying every week. Saturday, Sunday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. I'd sit at Whole Foods and sample sticks, customer by customer.
That's a hustle.
I was like, let me tell you about it. And they're like, oh, do you work? Are you? And I was like, no, it's my company. 3 months in, #1 selling item at that Whole Foods whole body department. They gave me another one.
Let's go.
They gave me another one, did the same thing, got it going. Then they gave me 12. And the craziest part about that for me is like that, but that one-on-one with the customer, I literally, now I go meet with Costco. It's a $10 million PO I'm trying to get. The same, nothing changed. Yeah. Como said it on his thing. Yeah. I was like, same process. Let me tell you about the brand. Let me tell you our story. Give back mission. And then you get them go. And then it's like that $10 million sale was the same as the $3 stick sale. Yep. Nothing changed. And so that sacrifice of everyone's going out partying. Everyone's just like, I got this right now. Hey, I'm going all in on this and I'm going to do it for the next 3 months. I mean, I'm going to do it for 6 years now, but I'm going to do the next 3 months and see where we're at.
Looking at the micro, just all you got to worry about tomorrow, the next day, next week.
And nothing changes millions of dollars later. Yeah. Same process.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep. Should we talk about Chizen?
Let's finish the question.
Yeah, finish the question.
Damn, that story fucking hit me, bro. That was something. I wish I knew you at that stage because it'd been amazing.
I wish there was a podcast at that stage because it'd be something you could go back on and actually listen and be like, wow, this is where he came from, the mentality.
I wish I was like at the fucking Whole Foods.
It gives me listening to you guys talk. I didn't say it before. I literally got chills. Like I almost got emotional listening to each of your stories. It gets me so fired. Do you know how many people say no and like you can't do it? Like everyone out there thinks like we just like this is just happening. Like no. Do you know how many people said no to you and said no to you and like, dude, it takes like this crazy amount of relentlessness to actually make something like this happen. You say it every day.
Punch the bag.
I watch Bobby's stuff. Bobby gets me so fucking jacked. Every night he comes home, he's like, killed the Uber streets. It's 12:15. 6:15 in the morning. 6:15. Bobby's at the gym. He's like, I'm just punching the bag. That was me selling stick. Yeah. Stick. Yeah. Stick. Same
Keep showing
thing.
up.
Do you have any cool stories
No,
from?
You're good, bro.
Thank you.
A single stick that you sold that was like monumental. Was there like a time like being on the gates?
Sold a stick to one of my really good friends on Jordan Younger. Just another Whole Foods customer. Yeah. She has a few 100,000 followers on Instagram. Didn't know this. 100,000 followers. She loved the whole thing so much. Became best friends. She helped push the brand. She ended up running our social for a while. Like, wow. So like the person who is like the 55-year-old dude who like walks in and like wants one stick, same sales pitch to the girl who ends up like helping blast off our brand.
Yeah,
that's epic.
I think that's important to go off of that. You have to. That's what I've learned through Uber, is that every person that gets in my car, I have no idea who this person is, and so I can't make assumptions because as soon as I do, I miss the opportunity. And I made not an assumption in a bad way, but I just thought this kid that got in my car the other day was just him and his girl were just just another couple. And I was like, I didn't want to push them because it was kind of like a Thursday night. I knew they were going to the movies, and I didn't like start the conversation until 5 minutes out. I start talking to him finally. We just like start chopping it up, and he ends up being the star in this Netflix series right now. Wow. And I end up looking into him after 500,000 followers on IG.
That's epic.
And I'm sitting there thinking like, wow, had I just started the conversation earlier, could have been on the podcast. Right. Could have been an epic story. But at the same time, it's like...
It's not too late.
No, you
I sent the DM yesterday.
Yeah. Plant to the seed.
You still got the seed.
Plant to the seed.
Still plant to the seed.
Yeah.
But it's you. When you're preaching, I literally can hear it because I try not to allow myself to, no matter what this person looks like, I'm going to just look at this as a human being, and I'm going to pitch them the same thing that I would do to the next person, because who knows? There was a great interview Jonah Hill just did with Power 106. Shout out to Power 106, not Power 106, excuse me, Breakfast Club, New York. Charlamagne the guy, what's up? But great line. He talked about how he appreciated the people that have been with him since the jump. They were the ones that looked out for him, and they looked for nothing in return. They were the people that were treating him, calling him, saying, Jonah, how's it going? They weren't asking like, Jonah, like, what can you do for me? It was just pure and simple. When he was at the bottom, like, Jonah, how's your day going? He said that made all the difference. Asking me how my day was the difference, instead of like, oh, what do you do? Oh, how can you help me? Oh, do you know this person?
It's people and relationships, man.
Key.
So true.
I want to hear yours.
Were we talking about sacrifices?
Yeah.
It started in college, actually. In college, I already had in my head that my clock was ticking to be somebody.
At what point in college? I feel like that's
I'm talking
important.
like freshman year.
Yeah.
And what I realized was that my hours outside of class or work, if I had a job at the time, needed to be productive, whether it was socializing or working towards a goal or working on school. And so at that point, like, I'm a sports fanatic. I grew up watching every Knicks, Yankees, Jets game. I grew up watching quite a bit of TV. Sports Center was always on, watching all the radio hosts, like listening to radio hosts. And I was like, you know what? This TV, like, I'm not going to go to the NBA. I need to cut it out. And so I cut out TV. I cut out movies. I cut out all the bullshit that wasn't helping me, like, get to a greater goal. And that carried on, like, after college. So, like, my off hours were always set to productivity, and they still are today. Like, I haven't had TV in like a few years. Like, I don't watch Netflix. I don't watch. And that shit's hard to do. And like, people look at me like I'm a fucking alien. Like, oh, have you seen this show? Did you watch Breaking Bad the other night? I was like, what? Who? Like, what? What are you talking about? And I think that's okay. Like, if that's what you do in your off time because you want to relax and chill, like, great. But if you're complaining about you not having time, but then you spend 3 hours a day watching Netflix, then you need to think about those trade-offs. So that was one sacrifice, but amongst many. I think socially is a big one. Yeah. Learning how to say no. Yeah. Especially like for us living. Yeah.
That's all we do now.
Living in LA, like, you get hit up constantly to go out. Every weekend's a birthday. Every weekend someone's in town.
Can't stand birthdays.
And like, if you're a good friend and a good person, it's really hard because you don't want to let people in your circle down. Yeah. But at the same time, if you give them a legitimate reason, like, hey, I can't do this because I'm working on this project, or hey, I can't do this because I'm trying to do this. Like, people will really understand, and you can make it up to them in other ways. And so that was a big one for me. Like, there was a period where I was working like 6-7 days a week with movement stuff.
This was balancing full time and movement.
No, this is when movement was full time. Like, when shit got like deep,
started to pick up,
because we hadn't like built out the team yet. So I was wearing like,
I remember that
10-12 hats. Like, no fucking joke. Basically a team of 25 on the marketing side now. Like, I was doing, me and my boy Spencer were doing like a lot of it. And we were working 6-7 days a week, long hours, just to like finish our work. But it was because we wanted to. You know what I mean? Like, we had the greater goal and the vision in mind. And a lot of times it would be like, I would pitch something to Jake, like, hey, let me do this Movement Heat campaign. 6-figure budget. And he'd be like, I believe in you. And so now it was my point to go prove it. And if I didn't spend those extra hours, like, making it actually happen, making it go down the way we envision, I'd never get that opportunity again.
You took advantage of the opportunity that was at your plate,
For sure.
and not just
Right. But if I was going out and partying like every weekend, then like that would look horrible.
Yeah.
Like, it was.
I think that's super important. Like the saying no is like the key to, especially in the early stages when your back is against the wall, you burn the ships. Literally, I think that's gonna be the name of this podcast episode, Burn the Ships.
Wow, I love that.
But that is the key because there is no option B. Shout out to Liquid I.V. We're gonna hydrate ourselves and fill her.
Passion-free.
Yeah, I guess it's good.
We're gonna fill her up the Liquid I.V.
I always struggle
This
with
is the new flavor. I got the berry though. What you guys
Gotta
got?
go all the way across. Hard.
Are we doing this as a team?
I'm going acai berry.
We're all
I think we're going AB.
loading
yeah.
up. Oh, I gotta open this
I'll
up a
go
little
full.
bit.
I didn't mean to
Bro,
interrupt.
is this too much?
No, it's fine.
Half. Yeah, half.
It's a good transition point.
I'm like,
Nice.
I feel like I just go for it.
All right, you guys.
It's
gonna,
delicious.
You guys are gonna be so hydrated. Oh my god.
Let's pick it up a little bit.
Can I say something about Liquid IV first?
Please
though?
do.
I had given up going out as often as I used to. Since Liquid IV's been in my life, I honestly feel I could go out and have a few drinks, drink this stuff, and I wake up in the morning and feel like a brand new person. Like,
Thank you.
I feel fresh. I feel hydrated. I'm not just saying that.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I
You
would
drink one of these before you go to sleep, one when you wake up, and you'll be ready to seize the day.
I piggyback that. Like when I go out, I don't go out anymore unless I have Liquid IV. Because I'll go. Actually, that time we took it out and we poured it in our drinks when we were out, felt fine the next day.
Yeah.
So
I'll
game
piggyback
changing.
on that a little. Just so like it's designed as like a healthy hydration, like for like active lifestyles, travelers, it's a health and wellness product. But what a lot of people don't know is like a hangover is like 95% dehydration. That's why you feel so bad. And so the reason Liquid IV, although it's not designed for that, is people have really picked up on it sort of as like this like underground little kind of secretive remedy. Is just because hydration is like the main reason that dehydration is the main reason that you're hungover. So
You gotta
just
mix
so
it.
everyone
You
knows,
gotta
it's
mix
not just hangover.
You gotta mix in the water when you're drinking. That's
There
the
you
key. But I never was good at that in
Gotta
college.
live life.
I was never good at that. Mixing in the water and the booze. What do you have something to say?
Just the last thing on
I hope people watch it instead of listening to this podcast because visually it's gonna be great if you're watching. If you're listening, it's just as good. But Steve Borrelli over here is just going ham.
Wait, now I lost my
Too
thought.
excited. He's too jacked.
Oh yeah, the sacrifice.
Sacrifice.
J. Cole came out with I think it was called the Come Up album in 2011, and I had just started my job at Nordstrom, and I was my first year living in the frat, and I was like, all right, I got this job, I got to really focus. It was the first time I was like, all right, you know what, I'm not gonna drink for 30 days, and it was like the first time after kind of being an adult that I was like, all right, I'm gonna take 30 days and do nothing but focus on selling shoes, selling women's shoes. And I had such a good month and just I was solely focused. That has really set me up for all the other goals and that I set. It's just it really just taught me you can get it after if you just really focus.
Well, I think the problem is not the problem, but it's hard because we sometimes think about the bigger picture, and that's what gets overwhelming, and that's where it gets hard to actually start implementing what we can do today because we think about, wow, I need to do all of this work to get to that end result, when in reality, and I struggle with it too, but I push myself every single day, is literally all I can focus on is 24 hours at a time. And you know what you said during your podcast that really stuck with me? One task.
Yeah.
One task a day. That's all I need to worry about. Today, I was pumped. I knew I had this podcast. That's one task. Yesterday, I got a new podcast cover, which will be dropped by the time this comes out. Boom.
Like it.
That's it.
Really?
Tomorrow, boom. I'll show you after.
Wow.
One task at a time,
So true.
and break everything down so it's not this continuous overwhelming part.
And then after 1 or 2 or 3 days, there's nothing I like more that gets me hyped. It's 3 days of following through and doing it. I can always tell after 8 days of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in the gym on that last Thursday, man, I feel like I could conquer the world. I'm bouncing around. I'm hopping around. I'm screaming to myself. I'm screaming. I'll scream out in the morning when I'm listening to music.
There's no joke.
And it's those things.
Steven called me when this is the best. When you guys when the whole sale went down, it
This
launched.
is a classic story.
That's
And,
epic, bro.
Yeah, it's insane. It's
100
incredible.
mil, bro.
It's a rumor.
It
There's a rumor going around.
The humbleness.
So like, you
That's
know,
incredible, man.
Jake and I had sort of just bounced it around a little bit. So then when it dropped, he sent me a screenshot. He goes, "Is this fucking real? Is this
Yeah,
real?"
I was hyped.
And like literally, if I showed you screenshots of my messages from Borrelli, like 20 messages in a row, like, dude, I'm so jacked. I'm shaking. This is. I see the path. I was with them I saw him in the beginning. And so he called me at like, he was in Chicago.
Yeah,
And it was like 11 p.m. West Coast time. Like I was getting ready to go to bed. He's like, dude, I just left the bar. He was at like an event. Just left the bar. I'm in the streets jumping around in Chicago. I'm just screaming in the streets.
'cause
he was so jacked.
Because
For you guys, like just for everything.
What you just said though, like he's like, I see the vision. Like
I could see, because I remember when Blake took the leap, and people were like, he's doing that for a watch brand. I think I was even one of them. I was like, there's no way.
You talked about it in our pod.
There's no way this is gonna work.
Yeah. Yep.
And then to see it, and like it's been such a good blueprint for Cuts, because like when they were doing 10K a day, I thought it was so much money. And then, you know, I remember those days of having conversations with you, of like when it was just the four of you, and I can relate it to my business. And it's been, and each step of the way I have like a blueprint to follow, and it's been different. There's been things that have been different, but it's been such a good path. And so when that happened, I was like, I remember I was in the street, and Frame sent it to me. He was like, dude, check this out. And you know, you click on the article, and it's like, you know, selling Movado. I stopped and I go, holy shit, like this is real. This happened. I was so, and one, just knowing like all, you know, Jake, Blake, and Frame specifically, and Spencer, like guys I grew up with, I was so happy for him. And then just it lit a fire under my ass. I had to call B. I was like, dude, what the hell's going on?
He wasn't even talking. He was talking to himself on my text. He was just talking to himself.
He's like, no, this didn't happen. Did it happen? Did it happen? No, did it happen?
All day, so jacked.
that was a crazy few weeks.
Talk about that, please.
It was hard to even communicate like the way I was feeling for quite some time.
Yeah.
I actually was fortunate enough, like I had a trip planned right after that happened,
That's the best,
coincidentally,
to get out.
where I could just get out
Yeah.
and like just get away and think about life and everything that was going on. But what was crazy about everything you guys are talking about was like thinking back to the early days when we had no validation, no one took us seriously, no one thought we were legit. Like people would legitimately like message us and comment like, this is a scam, like you guys are like never gonna be anything, like just trolls. But like even friends would talk to us and like, oh, you guys are never gonna be shit. Like, you know, I'm not gonna name names, but like I literally sat down next to like homies that were like, oh dude, like you guys are selling like pieces of shit, like it's never gonna be anything.
The dinner.
Yeah, with like anyway. And then you go from that stage, from like the building stage where like, you know, you start to pick up and you know the revenue you're doing, you know the numbers, you grow quietly, and at the same time you look up at like the big monsters in the industry, and you're like, damn, like you feel so small.
Yeah.
You're like, how do we get there? Like we're just a bunch of kids who don't really have that much experience. You know, I remember the days like when we were working at like the dining room. It's like me, Jake, and Spencer, the marketing squad.
Classic.
And we're like in there trying everything, not really knowing anything, but like literally just trying. Like we paid an SEO agency like $20K a month because they sold us the dream that we were gonna like
blow up
because of this SEO shit, like, or the blogs. It was a scam. Like we completely like pour money into an absolute scam. But like it's all about just like taking those learnings and like applying it to like what was working.
Yeah.
And then like we started to realize was like our hustle and our understanding of the market we were trying to like target was so unique to what anyone else in our industry was doing.
Yeah.
And then to go from that to like, you know, we're seriously like getting, you know, courted to be bought out by Movado. It's, you know, in a short 4 or 5 years, like short period of time.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy to look back at that. Like, what the fuck happened?
What do you think has been the biggest takeaway now that you went away? I think that's great timing. Like you just so happen to have a trip planned, and that goes through like get out of here. But like for those 2 weeks, I know there's a great time. You're out with the homies. You're having a great time. But when you're finally able to sit down, lights off, nobody's in the room, like what for you is like the big takeaway from this experience? Because that's not a small number, and that's not like that's dream. That's a dream.
I was talking to Steven about it in the car, and I think all that's really done to all of us was put us in the mind state that this was like a stepping stone to the rest of our lives. And
Yeah.
for the first time in my life, like, yeah, I have some chips to play with. So like, I feel like I'm in a position to like execute on a lot of the shit I want to execute on. It's a breath of fresh air, but at the same time, it's not like I don't even think I've been out with like the team to like go party. Like, I partied, don't get me wrong, but like we haven't celebrated. Like when I talk to like other people on the team, it's all about like how are we going to continue to like build off of this.
Yeah.
You know, especially for movement. Like I feel like now with Movado behind us, like we're just getting started. Like our best days are ahead of us.
You just dumped a thing of gasoline. It's not like you guys put the fire out. If anything, this just shows you like, wow, we're really onto something. Let me light this up and keep it going.
It's made me like, one, just take a second and then really think about like my future and myself and, you know, the future of movement as well. And then you're able to like think about things the right way. Cause I think we never took on investment. And so like, Brandon, I know you guys, like you run the company as if you don't have investment, but when you don't, like you make a lot of short-term decisions cause like you need to fucking make money. Like you have to fund the business. You have to pay salaries. Yeah. You have to pay for inventory. Yeah. And so now it's like take a step back and really think like, okay, like how are we going to build ourselves and the company for the long term? So that's a lot of the focus right now.
Yeah. I want
to really quick. Please. I know we're spitting fire. Can you turn the AC down just a little bit?
Turn it. You want it?
Just
you're hot.
The fan. I'm like freezing.
Oh, hit that switch right there. Hit that switch right there. Yep.
Right,
boom,
thank you.
Nice little switch here. Little tee up.
I know lots of fire, but
He's getting cold.
nips are hard.
I want to go off of that kind of like the success aspects, right? Like you guys are all. I'm not saying when I say successful, you are successful, but I know you guys are still like, I got a fire. Like we're just getting warmed up. What do you think separates the people from actually making this happen? What separates movement from every other watch company? What separates Cuts from every other shirt company? What separates Liquid I.V from everybody else that might be trying to make that liquid out of? Like, why are you guys where you're at today? Like, what is the key to the ingredient for successful entrepreneurs, brands, social media influencers? What's the one thing?
I was actually just telling this to my team this weekend when we all met. I said, you know, someone could copy our shirt, someone could copy our style, but they can't copy us. And like, I'll take the 5 guys that we have and match them up against anyone. And I believe that it really just is about mindset. You have to think that no matter what, who you guys got in the room is better than anyone else. And the winners think that way. And for us is, you know, I'll take that to the bank. I'll take my guys and I'll take what we've been able to do against anyone. And winners, you have to have like an undeniable belief in what you're doing, and it's got to speak through your products. You know, for us, I think, you know, it's been true is, you know, we are the market, and we'll take and we'll just charge it as who we are. So I think that belief in yourself is the most important thing.
For me, I think as we've as the team is growing really quickly, and I know you guys have gone this too, right? Like, you know, there were 5 of us 18 months ago, right? And now like we'll be a team of 20. And so for me, it's like the clarity of purpose for everyone that's involved, especially as you start to have layers between me down to like people who are just coming into the business. And for me, and you guys have heard this, and you know, I got my new wrist tat, CTW, I call it Change the World. And so like for me, it's like I realized, and I didn't, for a while I was doing it because of the business, and I realized for me, like my greater mission, Live is a part of it right now, but like I want to change the world and help people live better lives. Everyone has a different mission, right? For me, like I realized I love helping people. And like when I was selling those sticks, that was one at a time. And so what I started to realize, I want to do that at scale. Yeah. I want to do that at scale. And so I was talking to you guys offline about this before, like you bring people in and like, if, you know, they for them to fit that culture and understand what we're trying to do on the highest level. Yeah. Like if we can build that, now it's about like, yeah, you're grinding at, you know, last week we were grinding at 7 p.m. on a Friday night. I have 6 of my best people. They're killing themselves for me, for the brand, but because it's something bigger than just like we're trying to sell a stick. We're trying to hydrate people here commercially.
I love that, B. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, we're trying to hydrate people around the world, and like, and people who don't have access to buy our products. Like we'll donate over 2 million sticks around the world next year. And like for me to think I was selling 1 stick at a time, and now going into next year we're gonna be able to do that. Like, so when I can get people really like. It's starting to like people are starting to really feel that. Yeah. And then like you said it perfectly, right? For both of you guys, like it comes out through your product. It comes out through your story. It comes out through your website. It comes like, it like seeps out the pores because that's truly, authentically, genuinely at its core, like what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100. I totally.
I'm getting
see
chills
that.
listening to that.
Totally see that.
I love that, B.
Thanks.
And I love that because from top down, when you have an organization and you're a fucking leader, the head honcho believes what he just said, like that trickles down to every employee
100%.
in the company, and like, dude.
You guys know me. I think the thing too is like I have no other speed besides this. Like I don't know how to not be me. Like it's different than other people, right? Like I was talking to Jake on the way here. Like we do things a little differently, but like I love it. Like I have nothing else but like so genuinely do I want to change the world and help people live better
And
lives.
you can hear it in his voice too.
Yeah.
I think
it's very easy to tell.
It's so genuine.
Yes.
And I think everyone in this room, it's the same way. When I listen, when I meet you for this
Bobbbaaaay.
time and you're hyped, you know,
Yeah.
I could feel.
Yeah.
Something you said in your last podcast. You're trying to be great.
Yeah.
And I think that all leaders and all people starting business, all people who want to start business, if you don't have that desire, you're never going to make it because there's so many hard things that will come in front of you. And like, I mean, that's inspiring. He wants to change the world.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I just got inspired by that B. I love it.
Thanks, dude.
So.
I think we all can change the world in our own ways. It's just finding what's the best way to do that. You know, some
Totally.
people you're going to be able to, with the company, like to touch 2 million lives. But just because I'm not comparing, but I'm saying like just because I can't touch 2 million lives doesn't mean I can't touch 5 or 100 people. You know what I mean? Like I think sometimes people, they sell themselves short because they don't think they can touch the masses. So they're like, well, what's the point? Where it's like, if you could even
100%.
affect just one person, that to me is the
That's where it
motivation.
started.
Yeah.
By the way, that's where it started.
Yeah.
I didn't. I was like, I want to help people one-on-one. That's what I did. It was always just like, I wasn't even like digital where we had the reach like that you guys have, and now you guys have too. Like it was just in person. And that the cool thing about the world we live in now, which is like incredible, right? Like you can reach people around the world on social. It's insane.
Yeah, it is.
It's insane.
Actually, I want to go off of that. That's a great transition. I want to talk about e-commerce of 2018. How does one be successful at it? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people listening to this right now. They're starting up brands. Maybe they have social media content. How do you become successful in such a saturated, busy environment? What do you think is the best ways to get your product into the right people?
These two.
I'll jump in. Yeah, I think a lot of people will start a company and the first thing they want to do is something flashy, something sexy, something to really make a bang, and that's usually a party or an event or something where
talked to a girl
you're
this
blowing
week that
money
was doing
like,
that.
in all the wrong places.
Get her out of here.
And that just comes with like a lot of times ego. Like people when they start a company, they're like, I want to flash that I'm an entrepreneur, and I want the world to know.
The LA founder.
The truth is like a lot of people will start a business and for the first year, 2 years, they're just burning through cash, and that's not sustainable. No, but you're
Investing,
you're
but
doing it the right way.
But I'm
Look at-
investing
dude,
myself.
We're in a fucking
bedroom
bedroom
right now.
studio. Like this is.
Let's get it.
You're actually doing it the
And I'm
right way.
proud of it, too.
You're not getting fancy.
Yep.
You're growing quietly.
Yep.
You're doing it the right way.
Yep.
You're staying humble.
Yeah.
And I think that when you start a business, you have to focus on like tactical stuff that's actually going to like move the needle today. Like, what can I figure out? Like, where can I find money under rocks in order to keep fueling the fire? And if you pour gasoline on the fire, like it continues to grow. But if you're putting water on it with like sexy shit, that's really not like netting.
The long play. It's not gonna help you in the
Yeah,
long
there's
play.
no
Very
performance
short
tied
term,
in.
very
Like,
short
yeah,
term.
maybe it's sexy. People think you're cool for like a few months because you have a company and you just launch. But like at the end of the day, like those aren't the companies that survive. And so I think early, like you really have to like be smart, and like you guys know this. Like I know how you guys both run your business in a lot of ways. Like early on, like our whole thing was like grow quietly. We didn't do like big events. We didn't do big. If we did, it was free. It was like we found a way to network and like
Just
get
to
a
be there. You could be there. Didn't
comp
cost you any
event with
money.
like put our letters up or whatever. But a lot of people they think like one thing, like one big event or one big influencer is gonna like be the tipping point, and the truth is it's not. Like each little tactic is a building block, and if you put all your eggs into one basket thinking it's gonna like make you, you're gonna be let down.
Yeah. I think not to cut you off, but one thing that Gary Vee always said, I know you're a big Gary Vee fan. I
my
forget
boy.
if you two are, but like we always think that it's gonna be the thing. Like that's gonna be the thing that takes us off. Whether it's the post from the influencer or whether it's a video feature from somebody else, And it never is the thing. It's just the one step forward. And so if you let yourself think that all you need is this to happen and then boom, you're just going to blow up, it's never going to happen. It's going to help you get a little bit more forward, but you got to be ready to come back even stronger for the next stride and the next stride and then the next stride.
Consistency, man.
Yes.
Consistency.
I think there's two things. I think you have to love it. You look at these guys, everyone in here. You absolutely love what you do, and that's so hard. If you don't have something that you're passionate about, but you have to love it. And then two is you got to be willing to put in the work.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to take it one step at a time. And then I think the third thing is you got to keep it simple. Like, you can't try to do too much. I think that with a founder, that's something that a common mistake. If you try to do too much, just keep the idea simple, especially from an e-commerce perspective. The internet is full of so many things, the Internet of Things. If you just do one thing really great, and like people know you for that, that's the route to success. So just keep it simple. Don't overthink it. One thing at a time, and love and let the passion speak through it, and that's a winning recipe.
One more thing real quick. I think it's important to study those who've done it before you religiously. So look at successful brands, whether it's the same industry or not. For us, when we were coming up, we looked at Dollar Shave Club, because what they were doing at that point.
Not a fan, by the way.
On e-com.
Not a fan.
No, I love their razors.
Nah,
Come on,
the beard.
No, you still clean up
Come
though.
on, my barber does it.
I'm not a fan of Schick and Gillette. That shit's a ripoff.
I'm just trying to spark a favorite bearded man. All right, ladies and gentlemen, get your beard
He
oil.
cleans up.
Yeah, go
This
ahead.
guy
I just
for
get
sure
it. Go
got
ahead.
lined up today.
Go ahead.
Today? Was it today?
Line up.
Wednesday, I got a haircut.
Fresh.
Great, thank you.
Fresh.
Three days in is the perfect time.
I'm like
let it grow in a little. You don't want to be too
I'm only
perfect.
one day.
I got last Monday and this weekend.
I know you on that fade like me. Yeah. First thing
Zero
when we met,
fade.
he's like, "Great fade." I was like, "I already like you. I already like you." Not to cut you off. I didn't mean to throw that
you're
off.
good.
Dollar Shave Club. Go ahead.
For a long time, the companies that we had looked up to, they were like the North Star. So we would see, like, what were they doing on their website? How were they advertising? What kind of softwares and platforms were they using? We connected and built a great relationship with Shopify. So we want to know, like, what brands were hot, who was killing it. It's funny, a lot of the brands that we looked up to, not before long, were like asking us for advice. Like, I'll never forget, I had a lunch with the guys from Dollar Shave Club, and they're like, the whole conversation is them trying to pull and extract how we do social media and content.
They're asking you all the questions.
And I walked away from that meeting just like blown away, because I thought it was gonna be one-sided, like me asking all the questions, and they were so curious to like pick apart our strategy. And I was just like, damn, like we used to, like anyone that worked at Dollar Shave Club was like an NBA player to us. We're like, oh my god.
They're doing it. We need to learn. From
that was how it was.
Yeah.
Like there was other companies that were similar to that, like MeUndies was another one. Some other e-com brands that are out there, but it's just Adidas Originals as far as a brand, but it's just crazy. Like, look at who's done it before you, and then study and find out exactly like how they're getting there tactically.
And then if you can make a little tweak to make it a little better, right? Like that's the game changer.
Well, that's that. You inject your own self into it,
Onto
and like
what
if
they
you're
do good,
That's so important.
Good,
Exactly.
dude.
That's so important.
good.
So good.
yeah, 100%.
Customer experience. I think that's super important too. Making sure that when you finally get somebody that comes into your brand or looks into your product or even maybe actually dishes out money to buy your product, that they're satisfied and that they come back for more. How have you guys made sure that they are satisfied but then also want to come back for more?
Go for it.
I think thank you. I think it has to start with the product. So the product's got to be good.
Yeah.
Like, if you could have the best marketing, like the best branding, everything. If they get Liquid IV in their hands and they pour it in and it doesn't actually hydrate the way it says, or like you got to.
I'm ready to run a marathon right now. So.
Yeah, I
Let's
know.
go.
Get the shoes on
I
after this, boys.
also have to pee.
Me too.
So bad.
So while he's
I
talking, you gotta
have
pee.
to
Well,
pee.
because there's
Let's
enough.
turn it off.
leave him
Just
hanging
be.
here.
Well, there's only one bathroom. We'll do one at a time.
One at a time.
It's got to start with a good product, right? It's got to start with a good product, or else like you can do all the great marketing you want, but like what I always say is like, I can think it's as cool as ever. It's about the consumer.
So right.
The consumer tells the story, right? So like we listen to them, like people love lemon lime, but then they wanted like like a berry flavor. Okay,
Yeah.
we got to come up with like a berry flavor, right? Then it was like passion fruit. So one, I think, is it has to start with the with the product.
Yeah.
Right behind that though is like you have to be customer centric. So like again, it's kind of like that CTW thing from the top down. If you implement down through your team that the customer is the lifeblood. Yeah. We don't get any of this. We don't get pretty signs. We don't get new offices. We don't get paychecks. We get nothing without these people willing to see an ad, pull out their credit card, and buy your product.
Yeah.
So like when you get them that to the point, like you got to like do everything you can to treat them well, from the email that they're going to get after they buy, to the shipment and what they're going to get, to the next follow-up touch point they're going to get from you. Like they're what make your company go round. So got to have a good product, but you got to have the mindset that they are your lifeblood, customer number one over everything. Yeah. Over everything.
Yep.
On that too is go the extra effort. Sometimes I still do it now. When someone will buy, I try to get it within the first like 30 seconds. I'll see the orders come in. I'll pick up the phone and I'll call them and say, "Hey, John Smith."
You call customers
within the first 30 seconds.
He calls them
within the first 30 seconds.
As soon as the order comes in, you'll call.
In the early days, I did it.
Epic, so epic.
I did it to quite a bit. Now it's harder to do. But I did it on last Thursday. Someone ordered. It was 4 shirts. I saw it was his 4th order, and I go, "Hey, what's up?" I think his name was Jacob.
Okay.
And I'm like, "Yo, what's up, Jacob?" Who's from Michigan.
Okay.
And I was like, "Hey, what's up, man? This is Steven, the founder." And they're like, "Wait, I just purchased. Like, what's going on? This is the founder of Cuts. Like, what?" And that to me, like, and then I can ask them questions. I'm like, "Hey, where did you find out about us on Instagram? What did you like?" And they're so blown away. And I think like I've probably done that now probably 300-400 times. Not over the course of 3 years. And I think and then it got back, like one of my professors from San Diego was like, "I randomly heard that you were calling customers." And I think if I randomly called you, you're gonna tell like 10 people.
Oh yeah.
I just got a call from the founder of Cuts. He just randomly called me.
Yep.
And I think they can feel that. So like what Brandon said, they are your lifeblood. Treat them better than anyone else, and go the extra effort.
Like, you think Hanes or Gatorade is doing that?
Yeah.
No.
That's our competitive advantage.
Yeah. I think when people can actually, because I do that too. Like I get
I'm gonna go
DMs.
pee.
Yeah, please. When I get DMs or could be an email or whatever, and I've gotten better at making sure that I show the appreciation, because that's one. I think we touched on this earlier. I don't know if it was off before we started the podcast or whatever. It's not about the numbers, and it's very easy to get caught up in like how many subscribers you have, especially in the early stages. And a couple weeks ago, I met Amar of Yes Theory. First time I ever met him, and I was just like, I was blown away to meet him because it was literally like the weekend after the jump with Will Smith. So it's like great timing. I watched it live in here, literally at this desk. I almost had tears of joy coming down my face because I knew what this actual moment was representing, and meeting Zach beforehand and like hearing the whole process. I was like pulled into the event, but I was talking to Amar and I was trying to pull at him just like, what were the early stages for them, especially because I'm trying to build up in YouTube, like what was going through your guys' head when you were just like the little guy on the totem pole. And so he sent me this article, and it was about, you can build a successful business off 1,000 people. Like if you have 1,000 true fans that are religious about your content, you can make a living. And so it ends up becoming this thing of realizing, I'm going to appreciate and I'm going to show love to the people that are actually supporting me, because they don't have to. And the people that I do end up supporting and showing love to, they go 10 times harder for me when they already loved what I was already pushing. Yeah. So it's a win-win. We're getting to meet. We're getting to have a conversation. We're a first-name basis. And now they're going even extra harder for me to let people know about the brand. They're rocking the hat. They're rocking the backpack. They're telling everybody about it. And so it's a win-win. And it also is the best feeling in the world because I'm actually hearing a person's voice, or I'm actually having a conversation instead of just seeing another number go up on YouTube or another play on Spotify. It's like, wow, I'm actually talking to somebody that's actually listening and asking me about the top 2% Uber driver life. Let's go, baby. Let's go.
Seriously, that is CTW. That is change the world. That is right there. That's it.
And that's what feels good. There will never be a number as far as following, subscribers, where you're like, okay, I'm good now.
Yeah.
Like Movement hit 1 million. Like everyone in the
I remember
office.
that. Yep.
Everyone in the office will tell you I was like, we should have hit 1 million a long time ago. But it's a constant battle. It's a constant climb. Like once you hit certain numbers, it's like not enough.
Yeah.
And that's why it cannot be the game to play. What you're saying, like the feedback you're getting, the real engagement and interaction you're getting with people, that's what it's all about. That's the game.
Yeah. How have you guys dealt with the flip side? Customers complaining. Customers are like, hey, this didn't come out right. I know we had talked about on the podcast that early on, like, screw up. But how do you deal with complaints of whether the product isn't what they thought it was, or there's a complaint online and they're posting about it? How do you try to battle back and, like, give them even more so that they still return back to you?
The other day, we got a pretty nasty message. Like, it was a late package, and he ordered it next day, and it was kind of out of our hands. So I just got on, and we were chatting with him. And
You called them up?
no, I was just chatting with him on
an email or something?
I think it was like Facebook Messenger. He complains like, this is my 4th email I tried. And I was like, hey, Steven here, the founder, I would just like to apologize. And, I just kind of was honest with him what's going on and, how it was out of our hands. And I gave him a gift card for 4 shirts.
Wow.
and said, hey, whatever you want. And just try to overdo it on the nice side.
Yeah.
And I think, he was really cool about it after. He's like, I can't believe, I'm getting on really cool. I think there's another potential where there's like 10% that are just going to be mad at you.
Yeah.
And then I tell my team, like, hey, if you want to overdo it and say you're over deliver it when we make a mistake, try to turn it into a positive.
Yeah.
But if there's 10% that are just going to be heinous and be mad, let them go. Just say, hey, thank you. This is our opportunity, and don't take it internally. But for us, I think just over delivering and then seeing what happens and just giving it your best bet is important to us.
Yeah.
I think that. Yeah, we had a lot of complications early with the influx of traffic during peak periods. So we obviously have like a gifting product. So a watch during the holidays is like a hot commodity. So during those periods, we'd have like pretty big
Swings.
big orders at the time coming in that we're going to fulfill all our holiday orders. And you're not really like first few years, like you don't really know, like you expect your manufacturer to hit their deadlines, let's say. And so like we have shit selling on the site and like that's banking on it coming in like on Wednesday.
To get it out on Thursday.
Wednesday comes, you call the fulfillment center, product's
still in
not
China.
here. And then like it hits the weekend, you find out it's held up at customs. And so like all this shit that's like happening and people are placing orders and eventually like you put it out of stock. But we don't do that anymore. But at the time, we're like, how do we deal with all these customers who are just like so damn pissed at us doing this? And the only way to do it is just be honest and authentic. And at that stage, like people are understanding that you're like a new company and you make a mistake. And like whether it's giving them a code for like a huge discount on the next order or giving them free stuff, like Steven said, the customer is always right. And like whether actually, this brings me to a Will Smith quote. And Will Smith's my boy, just like he's yours too.
I love it.
But he's like, there's a difference between being responsible and being accountable.
Yeah.
And I think there's like I may not be responsible for this product not arriving on time, but I'm damn sure accountable.
Yeah.
Good.
And as long as you admit to people that this is my accountability and we fucked up, they're usually pretty forgiving.
The one thing I'll add on that too, which is so true, and I learned this actually when I was selling tickets, right? Like again, take one little small thing and bring it to the next.
Scale
but
it.
The people that are mad enough to go right on social media or to send in some mad email, they're actually really passionate about your brand, right? And so I've learned if you treat those people right, and most of the time they can turn into your best,
Biggest
most loyal.
champions.
If you treat them right, they go talk about how they had this horrible experience, and that
you
Steven
came
reached
back
out, or Brandon, or like, think about that. Like, I rarely, maybe never, have I been mad enough to actually reach out to a brand and say something. Like, they must be so passionate about like your product. Like they didn't get their order on time and they were going on a hike and they needed it. Yeah. And I'm like, listen, I'm so sorry. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to say, and they end up turning into even more of your live loyalists. Like our community gets built even more. So like, if you can think of it as an opportunity, right? It's an opportunity, right?
How you see it, right?
Right. Totally.
Like if you look at it like, oh, F this customer, they, you know, you're never going to win. But if you look at it like Brandon said, hey, we can turn this. Like this guy cares. Like let's go.
Cares, man.
Like, you can win more.
The truth is, like we've all done business with companies who have horrible customer service, and if you've been through that as a consumer, once you're on the other side, you never want to be that brand.
Yeah, sure. So
and it's hard, and I think taking the influx of
it's hard as you're growing too.
You know, in e-com or whatever it is, like an influx of customer service inquiries, and you want to respond to people within 24 hours. What people don't realize is like things start to spiral. Like in, let's say you hit like a peak and you have 4x orders than you anticipated, and all of a sudden like your inquiries are through the roof. And you have a 6-person customer service team. That shit is hard to fucking deal with. But I've seen like, you know, movement in the early days, all hands on deck, where like people who weren't even in customer service like were responding.
You guys
to shit.
are doing
like,
it.
Like Kramer, who's one of our founders, like he didn't need to be getting his hands dirty responding to emails. He was responding to emails, taking calls, like just because we were like undermanned. But that's the type of stuff where people don't care if like you're undermanned. Like they want their response. Like trying to find a way to make it happen no matter what. It's crucial.
No, Brandon, you go.
I have a great one on that. Just a quick funny story, like getting all hands on deck. So we ran this free stick campaign, 1 stick, right? Lead gen, so to get email. We want people to try the product, and our whole thing is like get sticks in people's hands, right? Like
very important.
You know what a watch feels like on your wrist. These are obviously better than every other one, but like when you're shopping, like I know what a watch is, right?
A movement plug.
The movement plug.
This episode is brought to you by Movement.
Same with
and
cuts, baby. Are you kidding?
And Liquid IV in the cups. What's up?
And Stella.
And Purpose in the Youth.
And Stella. And Purpose in the Youth.
Yeah, I love those Purpose in the Youth cups. Where was I? You guys got me off track.
Talking about watches.
No, we ran this free stick campaign, and like, so it was like a 1-week campaign. We figured like they paid for shipping, like we maybe get like about 1,000 people to do it. 6 days in, there's only 24 hours left. We're at about like 800 or 900 right on plan. We weren't spending any money. Some mom blog picks it up and throws it up. You got to try this stuff. Gets on Reddit.
Oh man.
The next morning I woke up.
See ya. Reddit.
12,000 sticks. Wow. By the way, we have a fulfillment center that does all of our pick and pack on all this stuff. But the sticks we were just going to do in-house with our team. We had to have it out the next day, Saturday. The entire team comes in.
12,000 orders you had to like package?
Stick envelope note from me. Stick envelope founder note. Stick
handwritten or?
No.
Yeah.
Couldn't do that one. Yeah. Not that good at customer service.
Not a real note then, just to print it.
Yeah, it was printed. But yeah, like whole team coming in, line it up.
Whole squad
everyone
take it. I would still frame it.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow.
That's epic.
That is
it's
epic.
wild, dude. It's wild. Yeah.
Piggyback on that, I remember when after the Kickstarter, we hand wrote like close to like 650 in like paragraphs.
Yeah.
And I remember I did like the first 100 and it took me, or maybe no, it was less. It was like first 30, and I started writing
chicken scratch.
Yeah. I was like, so then I got my dad in there. We had like I got my little brother, my mom, all in my dad's office, and we ended up getting out like every single Kickstarter order a handwritten.
I'll never forget getting that package from Steven, and it took forever. It took forever to get his package after the Kickstarter. Me and my roommate Spencer, who also works for Movement, we got his package, and that was the second where like, he's for real.
He's got it.
I knew he was gonna win just to see how seriously he took the packaging, the time and effort he put into the notes. I was like, this man is not gonna fail, and you saw the determination to that point. Yeah. But even like to that point, like you're not selling like there was no product until he sent that. Yeah. And that's when I was like, my man's gonna make it.
Well, my hat is off to you guys because you each impressed me when I first met you. I remember, if we go in order, when you came through with your watch, and I don't know if you remember I said this, but I think in the vlog you see it, like I loved opening up the box, and then there was like the inside, it had like the movement. I forget what the actual note was inside, but every part of the process and inside the movement.
Fuck the Red Sox.
Yeah.
Let's go Lakers.
Let's calm it down, boys.
I was never a LeBron fan, but I'll rock with LeBron all day now.
let me go back to boosting you guys up a little bit. But seriously, the packaging was great. Then you came through for the podcast and was the same thing. Even like opening this up and it's just like an experience. Yours was the same. The packaging of we got one of the bags right here. If you're watching visually, like the shirts actually come in packed with the actual cut, and then you open up the label. Boom, you have the actual bag, which we got over here too. Like that stuff to me is the easy indicator of how passionate and how serious somebody takes their brand and their service. And then the notes too, like that. That's what it's all about, is showing like we care about every single stage of the process and every interaction that we have, whether it's you visiting our website, whether it's you placing an order and us thanking you, or whether it's you receiving our goods and making that experience something of its own. That I think is also a very important factor of getting people to come back. Because I've taken time, I do all the time, whenever I send a package, I write a hand note. And I apologize for the people that get it because the handwriting is horrible. I know. But I think people do end up appreciating, like seeing that you took the time to actually do that and write out to the actual name.
100%. 100%.
I want to touch on. You had touched on Change the World, CDW. I know all three of you are pretty big on that. How do you want your own businesses to change the world? What does it mean to you guys within your own business practices? You touched on it, so you don't even really have to answer. But I'd be curious to hear both of your guys' answer.
That's been on my heart since I started. But I've always thought before I could change the world, I got to have a win. So like, don't get too creative with it. But for us, it's like, what do we really sell? We don't really sell shirts. We sell confidence. We want guys to feel their best selves when they put on a cut shirt. And so, there's a lot of brands that say, we'll donate this to kids somewhere in Africa. I would like to start, and we haven't done this yet, so hold me to it if it's not done in a few years.
You're counting now. This is like law. This is documented now.
Is somehow bless like kids in America. Growing up with, the world of Instagram. I didn't have to go through that. They're always judged now. Their friends, and it's like the follower count's got to be so hard for kids. I would love to. Donate clothes to kids in America underprivileged so they can have new clothes. And I think that would be really cool and build them up, because I know my dad always instilled confidence in me. Whether I struck out in basketball, he always like, hey, you're in there, you're good. And I think my confidence has allowed me to try new things. So if people don't have confidence, I think they struggle a lot, and a lot of other issues can come. So if we could just give guys confidence and maybe one day give kids confidence, then that would be like how I would change the world to make everyone better.
Really
I love that. I like that.
Really good.
Realistically, I think in a lot of ways our story has inspired people on what they're capable of, because I think our foundation is a bunch of kids who to that point in their lives were losers. Like we didn't come from money. We didn't really have much going on for us. We didn't have like, a sexy product. Anything was like, everything was like not our way, but at the same time, like we found a way to make it happen. And I hope that outsiders who may be trying to find their way in their life, like I think in a lot of ways, like you grow up and you think your story is what it is because it's based on like what other people perceive you as. And so I think that once you realize that you shouldn't be living on like the momentum of other people's perception of you, and that like you're capable of greatness. Like a lot of people wake up in the morning and they're like, I can't execute on this idea because I'm not good enough. Yeah. Or I'm not capable of this. Yeah. Or I shouldn't put time to this because there's other shit that's like more important. But really, like a lot of times that more important shit is just a distraction and you end up procrastinating. Yeah. So like I hope our story just inspires people to get out there and believe in themselves. Yeah. And write their own story. Like your story should not be written off like what other people perceive you as. And I think that like people get out of college or high school and they get knocked on their ass, and a lot of times they don't get back up.
Yeah. Just so you guys know, I mean, when I say change the world, like, yeah, we're doing it with hydration. There's other things too that I want to do, but like your guys' story absolutely has inspired me. I
Same.
don't even tell all three of you. I told you.
Me the fuck. When we talked about it in our podcast, he's like, "Let's go, watermelon."
I'm telling
His
you.
energy was through the roof.
I'm not even kidding. I've never even told any of you guys this, but like Movement story absolutely does, right? Like we did bring in money right away, and so it was like a little bit more like traditional way, and I had like nothing against them, but just more like traditional ways of thinking. And like once I started to get to know you guys, and especially Jake, just because I met him first, and then I met you. Like do it your way. Do it, like that inspired me. Like absolutely. When I'm having a bad day, no joke. Like when things are hard, and like most of the time I don't even like let into it, but like this week I had some hard stuff go down at work, and like I called Steven it was Friday, it was 2 days ago, and like he got me like so clear in 2 minutes, and you didn't even know, so clear in 2 minutes. I'm like, why am I caught on this little thing? Like this is so much bigger than that. So like change the world. Like you guys inspire me. When I walked in today, I said, no joke, I'm not kidding. When you get home at 12:30 at night and you go, see ya.
Yeah.
Like punch the bag.
Yeah.
And then you're at the gym at 6 a.m. I'm fucking inspired.
Yeah.
Like, so the multiple ways to change the world and help people live better lives. And that's what I want to do.
I mean, I think I'm living proof. Cuts is from, looking at Movement. I always say it was a good big brother to have. And those little reference points have been so big for me to be like, oh, I remember when you guys didn't live, you guys didn't have an office, and going through that. Now I can relate it. It's been, there's so many ways it's been so good for Cuts, and it's good for the guys on my team. Like such a good reference point for them. Something to aspire to. So I'm right. Thanks, bro.
A lot of people think that they have to do it on their own. Yeah. The truth is, those who make it are the ones who are smart enough to find the people to be their North Star.
Yeah. What were we talking about before you two showed up?
Talking about this.
That's literally what we were talking about.
And growing up, like I was always a little bit stubborn, and if I was doing something, I wanted to figure it out on my own. And honestly, being around Jake has really taught me how to find other people who have done it before you and learn from them. And they'll give you the pathway, they'll give you the game plan, and that is like what people are failing to do. Is like they're sitting in their silos, they're hanging out with the same friends who, look, maybe they're fucking losers. Like maybe you're gonna love them forever, but like if they're not doing things with your life that are gonna help you propel into the career that you want, then you need to start hanging out with new people. And you don't necessarily have to ditch them, but like make the time for new people who could propel you into whatever it is you want to do.
Yeah, and that's why I want you to go off of that. The side note I just want to say is that's why I love podcasting, because there are people that are going to listen to this right now that might not have that network of friends right now to like have these good conversations with. And I think these are the podcasts and these are the conversations that even though they don't have the friends, they can listen to the conversation and let that be the conversation that they needed to be part of to give them the push.
That's right.
And you know what you're doing right now? Changing the world.
Yeah,
absolutely.
With this podcast.
You're exactly right. If you don't have the network, then first start listening to podcasts, read some books.
YouTube. Much content.
Like every morning when you wake up, make it part of your routine to listen to YouTube videos and podcasts. You're so right. And then eventually, like you just
find the right people with time.
Listen, if you're living in the middle of nowhere and it's hard to network, start listening to stuff. Eventually, you're probably gonna have to move out of the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Unless your business idea is rooted there.
Yep.
But at the same time, like think about you. You moved from the East Coast to LA because you knew this was the hub for entertainment.
100%.
Like you made it fucking happen.
Yeah.
Uber driving on the side just to fucking keep the lights on.
Yeah.
That's what it takes.
Yeah.
We do have an incredible network now, and I was telling him it's probably my biggest win of this year has been being able to be around like-minded people. But we didn't always have this.
Yeah.
I didn't have this.
Yeah.
I
didn't have this a year ago.
Right?
I wasn't sitting in a room with you guys. I wasn't sitting in a room with anybody.
But how'd you get it? You set your mind to something, you put a goal out there, and then punch the bag every day to get there. Let me just hit on the aces and spaces thing we talked about earlier.
Yep, please.
I think the best leaders, you can't be great at everything.
Yeah.
You can't be great at everything, right? So my dad, who's my biggest mentor, started on the streets of New York carrying a gun when he was 13, running his dad's dairy shop. His dad said, listen, you can take over the family business, which we'd love you to do. But he goes, I know you're passionate about art and creative. My dad moved to LA when he was 21. He had $500 in his pocket. He put himself through a like a city architecture school. Started at Gensler when there was just under 200 people there. Bought a low-level designer, worked his way up, and this is all while I was a kid. So we didn't have a lot of stuff then. He's doing good now. He's now the CEO of a 6,000 person architecture company, the biggest architecture company in the world, right?
That's insane.
And so he always told me it's about aces and spaces. Like everyone has their aces and their spaces, and Gary Vee says this too. Double down on your aces, but the best leaders can be self-aware enough to recognize their spaces and get fucking killers in those places. Like, think about Jake with you. Like, I was just saying, I need my Blake EP. I gotta, you gotta find where you don't have that.
Yeah.
Because you
I'm
can't
right
be
here,
good at everything.
motherfucker.
Yo, Jake, I'm vouching him. Let's go. No, but
I got a
seriously.
consulting fee.
We pay you in Liquid IV.
I'm down.
Yeah, aces and spaces is a good one, man.
I like that.
Aces and spaces.
What
It's so true.
going off that, there's gonna be a lot of people that probably listen to this and they haven't finally started that thing. Like, what would you say is your best advice to somebody that's listening that's hesitant to finally start that thing, might be just starting off? Like, what's the one piece of advice you'd give to them? Because I remember the person I was and how hard.
Quick
it was.
clarification on the question: have they thought of what they want to do, or had they found what they want to do and they haven't started?
Let's do. They have an idea. They have an idea,
okay.
but they just are like, I don't know. I don't know if I should do this.
I'm wrapping the show on this one, so you guys go first. I'm shutting it
Blake
down.
EP.
We're not done. I got a couple more.
Oh, never
after that.
mind.
Don't worry.
But I'm giving you I'm gonna give you a good one.
But like somebody that's just getting started, right? Let's just make it easier. Cut everything I just said. Somebody that's just getting started right now. They just launched the first podcast last week. They just put on their first T-shirt online, first watch, whatever the case might be. What's the one piece advice you'd give to them? They just started.
Burn the ships.
Yeah.
Burn the ships. If you have the idea.
Yeah.
If you have I was gonna say if you don't have it, find a hole in the market. I was gonna do the whole thing if they don't have. If you have it,
Yeah.
just gotta go.
Yeah.
You gotta go. Like,
Yeah.
it's never gonna be the perfect time.
Yeah.
Burn the ships. Go all in. Put the blinders on. Let's go.
Yeah.
I gave a kid advice. He's just started a esports company. His name's Rustin, and they're doing really well. And I could tell he has all these ideas running through his head. He just graduated college, super young. And when you start something early, you want to try to do everything. So you end up spreading yourself way too wide.
Yeah.
And so what I told him, I was like, look, all these ideas are great, but you have to prioritize what's most important and go deep in that before you start knocking out all these other pins.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing. So like really honing in on what you think is most important, because you only have so many hours in the day. And the second thing is tune out the fucking world.
Yep.
So you're going to have so many naysayers, so many people tell you why it won't work. So many people say, hey, you should do this because this will work better. The truth is they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And the amount of people who gave me advice, like even when we knew we were doing like 30, 40 million, and these people are talking to me like I haven't sold a watch yet. Like, oh, you guys should do this because like so-and-so is doing this. And it's like, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Sit on your
and like you just
podcast.
sit there and you bite your tongue. You be polite and you nod your head up and down.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, like if you have a vision and you have a goal, like you want to die on your own sword.
Yeah.
And if you're moving on the momentum of what other people expect or what other people tell you, that's not how you're going to succeed.
Yeah.
I would just piggyback off kind of what Brandon said. You have to go all in. Like everything else cannot matter, and that has to be the one thing that you do. Because then what happens is like when you go all in, things start to happen. People will want to be a part of that.
Yep.
Like when people talk about Kobe Bryant, in the moment, if you like, people forget like he was hated.
Yeah.
People like his teammates hated him.
Yeah.
But no one ever talks about that now because they talk about like Kobe is a great. They call him a great leader now.
I talk about it.
They say he's like a god to some people. I think.
You're hanging out with all Laker fans, dude.
Yeah.
Kobe,
But like,
shout
We'll
out.
see you guys next week.
for me, like my example of that was when I started. I'm not like a finance guy. I'm not good at finances, and my. Carter, he came in and he just wanted to be a part of the business, and he said, "Hey, how can I help you? I just want to be a part of this." And then from there, we that's pretty much how we've hired people that have said, "Hey, I want to be a part of this no matter what." Actually, a cool story is this guy I haven't met to this day. I gotta film this, but he's a 20-year-old in Orlando, Florida, and he hit me with this email right after the Kickstarter, and pretty much said, "Hey, there's something about cuts that I really like. I don't want to be paid. I just want I just want to be a part of it."
Yep.
And he's flying out to LA on the 30th and 31st, and now he's getting paid and stuff like that. I'm gonna meet him for the first time.
Wow.
2 or 3 years later.
Wow.
And he just graduated college. This was when he was a sophomore.
Wow.
He's been doing little things here and there, and that's what happens when you go all in. People are like, I don't know what that guy's on, but I want it.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's how you start. And that's how you start to build something special.
Yeah.
But you can't get there if you're like, well, it's Ronnie's birthday. I'm gonna go to Ronnie's birthday.
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
You have to say, everything else is coming second, and I'm going in, and people will find you.
The truth is, when you're a kid through high school, a lot of shit kind of just falls into place.
Yeah.
You grow up, and things like, whether it's like school, like for instance, you might be able to skate by with like a B. You pass with a B, things fall into place. A teacher likes you, she bumps your grade up. A girl that you've been talking to, like she maybe she's like you're super dreamy, and she just kind of falls into place.
Yeah.
Things with like, if your parents give you certain things, like they fall into place. Business is not like that. And like if you're running a business and hoping that things fall into place just because you've had luck with stuff in the past, you're gonna be let down.
Yeah.
So you can't approach it like that.
Yeah. I agree. I
Love that,
agree with
Blakey.
that. I want you guys to plug up your social medias. We're gonna do an announcement after that, and then we're gonna ask the final question. So, social media, where can they find you and Cuts?
You can find me at Steven Borrelli on Instagram, and our business is at Cuts Clothing, cutsclothing.com, and check us out.
You have a girlfriend?
Nope. You can slide into the DMs if you want at Steven Borrelli. Hey, let me finish that. I like to do. I'll do. What do we do? B. Text call. I don't do a lot of texts.
You can't get this shit away. This is like proprietary.
Voice call. No, but the voice messages only.
He does do that.
Got you and Movement. Where can they find you?
At Blakey P. That's BLAKE 3 Y's.
Yes.
P.
Yep.
And then at Movement at Mvmt.
At Liquid I.V. And then at Brandin_Cohen. My name's spelled a little weird. BRANDIN. Find me there. I'm single too.
Buckets. God, you guys are unreal. Before I ask the final question, I think my man Blake has something he wants to share with the gang tonight. I don't know if we didn't really get to talk about it before. If you want to talk about it, or we can pass on through it.
Podcast.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm launching a podcast.
Let's go! I was nervous too.
I
was supposed to bring it up to you before we started this podcast, and we started rolling. I was like, oh shit, I didn't ask him about it.
I got nervous. I was like,
No,
what
it's
are
all
we
good. I was-
announcing?
Just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm launching a podcast. Mid-November is the go-to date.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Let's Be Legendary. My
Love it.
whole
Love it.
motivation
Love
here
it.
is exactly what you hear from me, exactly what you see on my social media. My whole journey is about inspiring people to believe in themselves, break themselves out of their habits and the conditioning they may have grown up with, because I was once in a place where I was miserable. I was unhappy in my career, and now I see the light and I see what's possible and what everybody is capable of with hard work, with effort, with heart. And I think a lot of people are just so unhappy in their lives or just like unsure. They don't have the answers.
Yeah.
And so like I'm hoping that this show can help provide people, tactical stuff for business, inspiration from creators and business minds alike. And overall just like share cool stories and inspire people to get out there and conquer their dreams.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. We're gonna, when that drops, we'll be sharing out on, if you're listening or watching, it'll be getting posted all around. We'll be pushing that when you drop it. But I heavily am happy to see this happen, because when we first met, you had brought up the idea that you were looking to get into it. And so when you sent me the text, I was literally driving through the streets when you sent me the text last night and showed me like what you were looking at for cover art. And I was like, wow, this, like, I could feel what you were going for, and knowing the person you are and the same energy, and knowing like what I know for a fact that you can have your mind for something and you're going to execute it. I'm very excited to see what you can grow this into. So I want anybody that's listening that when this drops, you need to show some love to my man Blake and drop a bunch of bearded man emojis on his Instagram and let him know you came through for Purpose in the Youth, baby. Let's go.
Honestly, this show was a huge inspiration. I even said to Brandon, because I know Brandon, I'm gonna drop him.
Just go.
He's probably gonna start his own show.
Let's go.
I love it. But the truth is, dude,
it.
like I saw this production, I saw the hustle, and I'm not gonna lie, like I recorded shit.
Yeah.
Like when we talked, and I saw this, and I was like, if I'm doing this, I need to fucking do it the right way.
Yeah.
And so watching you and seeing the way you've run this thing has been such an inspiration for me. So yeah, kudos to you, man. I that's what I was talking about when we were in Cabo. Like we were talking about podcasts and like doing stuff like outside to like, you know, inspire people at scale. And I was like, dude, this kid Bobby that I interviewed with, this kid literally runs this thing like he's been doing it for 20 years.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anyone like this polished.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're doing it out of your bedroom, Uber driving to keep the lights on, like, mad respect.
I love that.
I love the Uber stories.
I mean, I'm going to go to my grave and always tell the honest truth and show people like I'm not bigger than anybody else. You know, I love this whole process. At the same time, I can't wait to get to where I know where I'm gonna be. But at the same time, I just know like I have to be authentic. I need to be real. And two things I want to say. One, I want to answer going off of what kind of way you were just complimenting me on, which I really appreciate. The question I asked you guys about the people that are just getting started, my advice would be you got to treat it as if you're already at the top, because that's how I've treated this ever since I've started. Like I've treated it that I will never forget that first episode I ever uploaded. I'm like by episode 2, there's 10 million people in this world that want that episode 2. There needs to be an episode 2. And so I think it is super important for people when they start something, decide what you want to be, who you're going to be, and do it. Don't make any excuses. Don't get distracted going to Ronnie's birthday or going out to X, Y, and Z. Make the commitment. Stop bullshitting with your excuses and actually do what you got to do to get through it. And I also want to give a quick shout out to Jeremiah Davis, that one blonde kid, for connecting us. Because without him, I never would have met you, and I never would have met you guys. Right. So thank you, Jeremiah. Thank you to that one blonde kid, because he is, without a doubt, one of the more genuine people that I've met in LA. And before I ask the final question, going off of the idea of genuine people, I truthfully, and I'll say this off the record as we already know the energy, like I really do respect and appreciate all of you. It is Sunday at 6:48 p.m. and I would not want to spend this Sunday any more than with people like yourself, because you are all an inspiration to me and you are an inspiration to people out there listening that we could, you know what the thing is? We could sit here all night and spitball and talk about like how you're going to do it, how I've done it, X, Y, and Z. But people just need to realize the only way you're going to do shit is execute. Go do it. Let podcasts, let YouTube content, let stories like people like this inspire you. Let them be the blueprint that you can make this shit happen, and go out there and do it, because too many people are going to spend their life tomorrow morning, every Monday, miserable, pissed off, not happy. And I remember we talked about it. You're like, I can't believe I get to do this shit. And that's what I love. Like people that really have that thing that fires them up to wake up every day. Those are the types of people I want to be around. And so I respect each one of you, and I only want to see you guys keep going to the fucking top. Let's go. Last question for you guys. It's a little bit different than for the people just getting started. But the question I always ask, best piece of advice to somebody that hasn't found that passion, hasn't found that purpose. One piece of advice from each one of you. Go at whoever has the first take.
Hasn't found the
passion, hasn't found the purpose. What do you say they do?
Who wants to take it first?
I think I have. I'll give it a crack.
That's a hard one.
I feel like I was in that phase for a lot of years. And my dad was an entrepreneur. I was in school. I saw a movement do their thing, and I was like, man, like what's my thing gonna be? And I'd always would drive me nuts when people would say, oh, you got to love what you do. I was like, well, how do you love what you do if you don't know what you want to do? And I think for me, when I got let go of my dream job, and I kind of was in this phase like, man, I don't really know what I want to do. And I just started trying things, and I just would try things. And then once I figured out, hey, maybe I want to do e-com. What we've said a million times in this podcast was I went all in on it. And I think with like the question of what do you like love to do something, I think you can only love to do something is with those going all in, the repeated day after day. You can't just love something from day one. So don't be discouraged if in the beginning you're not absolutely in love with it, because it takes time. Like now I wake up after 3 years, I'm like, I can't believe I get to do this shit because I put in that time and I've seen it grow. And now I'm looking back at this tree that can bear fruit. I'm like, I can't, like, what a blessing I have.
Yeah.
But you would have never had that point of view if you didn't go all in.
So true.
So for me, I think you just gotta take one day at a time.
Yep.
Take a deep breath, try a bunch of things, and then when something piques your interest enough, that's when you go all in.
Right.
And let it take time to love.
Right. I think a lot of people don't like learning. And what comes along with starting anything new is a learning curve. And so a lot of people will never make it past that initial learning curve. Like Steven said, I remember the days pre-Kickstarter of him calling me and Spencer every single night, just asking us question after question. And he did love that stage, but at the same time, I knew that he didn't love that as much as what he's doing now.
Of course.
And so you have to get over that hump, and you have to think like whatever it is you're starting. A lot of people like they try to like trick the market. Like, what can I come up with? Like, invent the next Uber, do this, like make this software or service. And like, if you're doing that the next 15, 20, 25 years, not making money, are you still going to love it?
Yeah.
Because if you're just trying to hit a jackpot, like a lot of times that jackpot's not going to come.
Yeah.
So you have to think like, hey, if I'm making enough money to keep the lights on, am I going to love this?
Yeah.
And like, if your answer is yes, like chances are that's going to be good. Let's say it's like baking cookies, and you make enough money to keep the lights on. You can, if you do bake cookies good enough, like maybe it will be much more than that. The money will come. Another example, my sister just quit her 9 to 5 to walk dogs. Everybody in her circle was like, what do you mean you're going to be a professional dog walker? Within a week, I think she's already making more than she was making at her 9 to 5.
Wow.
And she's got free time. She loves dogs. She's
outside
doing
all
what she
day.
loves.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm in her head and I'm like, go all in. Like, you're 23 years old. Like, now is the time to do that.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a matter of like trying new things. And if you get it wrong, like get back up and try again. Like, people are so scared of failing, or, their ego gets in the way and they're afraid of how it's going to look on them. And the truth is, the people are judging you. Like, what the fuck do you care how they judge you? Like, your family and your friends, like, they're going to love you no matter what. Like, and,
true.
You maybe you have like a job title that's like sexy or cool, but you're unhappy every day. Like, that's not cool. Being unhappy is not cool. So ditch that, try new shit, and eventually you'll find it.
It's good. I spit a lot of like passion and will and like relentlessness, which is like I'm obviously huge on, and that's like a majority reason why like I think we all where we are, and I really feel like I am, because I've just broken through walls. But I'll go a little more tactical on this one. Like, if you want to start something and try and build it like you talked about, and learn, there's a void in there's a void in the market, right? Like, and it doesn't have to be this gigantic void. Like, for me, it was like I saw professional athletes drinking a drink that was designed for babies.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, there's something wrong with this picture. Like, why are they drinking something that's not designed for them? They have access to the best products in the world, right? And then I saw my young professional friends doing the same thing, and I was like, it was simple. It wasn't like it was this like genius idea. I was like, what if you could just make like a healthier version of that and like market it to adults? And like,
so cool.
That was like, so like I was not like the genius in school. I wasn't like, but I saw that and I was like, there's like something there. And by the way, I'd come up with other little things, and like I took it back to like LMU, like, and I was like, hey, I got this idea. They're like, that's stupid. And they weren't that good. And this one, they were like, that one's got some legs. And like they gave me $1,000 to go try and figure it out. And like, so the more tactical thing, obviously everything you guys said, the more tactical thing though is like, it doesn't have to be like this like revolutionary thing, like this little I mean, they're making the best shirts around, the best watches. We have a twist on like the healthiest next generation of healthy hydration and wellness, right? Like, so the more tactical thing I would just say is like, if you can find that little niche for you is like a watch that didn't break the bank, right? For you, it literally, I only wear cuts, and I'm not just saying this.
I love it.
I was looking for it. They fit me better than any other shirt. They're clean, they're simple. I literally love the product. I love my Movement watch. Like, I hope people feel that way about our brand. And they were just little tweaks on things that are existing. We're doing it better.
And
oh, go ahead.
And on that too, I think to do it a little bit better, one rule of thumb I think all entrepreneurs should have is, unless you're fired up to tell your friends about it, then you're if you can't answer, if the answer's not yes, then you shouldn't be doing it.
It's either a hell yes,
it's either a hell no.
Hell yes or a hell no.
When we're debating something, it's either a hell yes or a hell no. You know, I said in my last podcast, but I started with barbecue gloves, and I didn't want to tell anyone about it, and it was such a good lesson that like now it's like, if I can't make a better shirt than like, and I'm not proud to tell my friends, then it's not something. And I think that's how we found a gap in the market, is because we kept it internally and say, hey, what do I like? What do we guys, who are we? We're targeting ourselves. So what do we like?
Same thing we
and
did.
I think what Brandon just said makes so much sense because it's rooted in his why. The reason when adversity comes knocking on Brandon's doorstep, he's going to keep knocking it down and getting back up, is because his why is tied in with this product. And so like when you intertwine the two, like that's how you keep going, because you get knocked down on your ass time and time again. It's funny you said that. Like funny what you said. I had a company pre-Movement. It was a sex toy company. I wanted to be like basically the Amazon of sex toys. It was like an e-commerce sex toy social commerce site. And I was not proud of it. And like by the time we actually had a site, like I didn't want to tell anybody about it. I was like,
CTW.
Like I was, because at that point, like
I don't think I've ever heard this before.
I've never heard that.
It was called Birds and the Bees.
It's a good name.
I was pre-college, was like,
This was the shit.
hell yeah, this is gonna be super dope. Like me and my boy were starting it. By the time it came to market, I was like, my name, my reputation is a blank slate.
Yeah.
Did I want that to be what my name was tied to?
Yeah.
Like, not that there's anything wrong with it, but like,
You have to own it.
I just felt, now I don't give a fuck. But like, back then I was like, dude, I honestly didn't talk about it. Like, I literally did not tell anybody because I was somewhat ashamed. So like, if you're not, like Steven said, if you're not proud of it, if it's not tied to your why and your overall mission, it's probably not going to work out, because adversity is going to knock you down. You're not going to get back up.
Good.
But the follow-up to that is like, okay, so what is my why? Take some time and really think about that.
It's a good one.
What are you doing this for?
Yeah.
Is it for your family? Is it for your future family? Is it for your friends? Is it because you want to like feed kids in Africa? Is it because you want to put shoes on people's feet and, like Tom's did? Like, there's so many ways you can like build a why, and I think that one of my favorite books is Start with the Why.
Yeah.
And there's a follow up. I think it's called Finding Your Why. Highly recommend both those books, but it will kind of like teach you like tactical stuff to actually extract the why out of like what you grew up as far as like your what you felt as a child. Like what is your deepest why? It'll help us extract that. So I could talk for another 3 hours, but like you could also just.
But you'll have to tune into his podcast, and you'll catch the other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was gonna say you could just read the fucking book, but yeah, tune into the podcast. We'll do a whole episode.
Wait, really quick. You don't give a fuck?
Oh.
Listen, man.
Oh.
Yeah, what's going on over
There's
here?
a rumor going
He
around.
doesn't give it. No,
We'll talk
the
about that off camera.
Kid doesn't work,
But
man. He
Blake's
doesn't.
I didn't know we
always
were
been
doing
into-
video.
He's always been into leopard. He's always like leopard
I
stuff.
love it. Well,
love
guys,
it.
thank
Such
you for
swag.
coming in.
Bobbbaaaay.
I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We'll catch you guys next time.
Good time.
See ya.